So hello to everyone attending this session. Glad to be here. My name is Mondrik, and I will be speaking about Power BI governance, what it is, why does it matter, how to implement, and what are the common pitfalls when you would have wrongly set up Power BI governance, or if you are totally missing it in your organization. Very little about me. I work as a BI consultant and data analysis lecturer in Czech Republic. Most of my work is done in Czech, so my English is a little bit rusty, but hopefully during this hour I will progress to a manageable level of English. I work in data since 2018, primarily with Power BI, but also with the other usual suspects like SQL and Power Platform and so on. And I'm lecturing Power BI since 2022. I also have some Microsoft certifications for Power BI and for Fabric. And when I'm not doing the data work, I try to escape the computer and the blue light and go outdoors with my friends, playing board games, drinking beer, or just traveling Europe for fun. So that's about me. You're here for the topic, not for my introduction. So let's go into the topic and let's talk about what are the common issues with Power BI governance. How can we even know the Power BI governance is wrong? What are the common tells saying or telling me that what is wrong and how can we improve it? So first of all, I will be speaking a lot about Power BI governance spectrum because there's no one way to do Power BI governance. It always is about compromise. It's always about having governance either more strict, but not too strict, or let's say more lenient, but again, not too lenient. And each organization has the compromise, has the mixture of these 2 points somewhere else. So I think this is the hardest thing with Power BI governance. There is no one guide that fits all organization, but you always need to adjust the best practices and the recommendations to your own organization and your needs. If Power BI governance is missing, or if it's just a set of rules no one is following, or if the rules are just too vague and we don't have anyone enforcing it, then it's the classical issue, I think. We've also discussed this before the session. As the Power BI reporting is evolving in the company, there's not many people who want to do the documentation, who wants to set up the accesses properly, and so on. And naturally, we get lots of similarly named reports, lots of duplicate data, lots of people accessing data they shouldn't have. You get the data leaks, sometimes even outside of the organization, which is obviously a huge no-no. And you also get the things like management meetings where one of the managers sees his Power BI report, the other manager sees her Power BI report, and the data is different in both of the reports. And then people are asking, what is going on? Why is the data different? What is the correct data? So all of this is at least partially result of wrong Power BI governance, or missing Power BI governance. So if we set up something, this should eliminate at least the duplicates, at least the data quality questions and data leak problems. On the other hand, if the governance is too strict, too locked down, and we really restrict people on what they can do, we have other issues that we need to take care of. Typically, the whole process is very slow. From requirement to implementation, it really may take weeks, and obviously business is not happy with that. Business wants to see the results as soon as possible. Also, it might overload the IT, the BI team. We have said the Power BI is primarily for business users, so we don't really want to give too much work to IT that is in addition to their normal day-to-day agenda. Obviously, what is the biggest issue is that users just stay in Excel and they don't migrate to Power BI because it's slow, because the data is wrong, and they don't trust it. They trust the Excel they create themselves for years and years and years. So unless we really motivate the users, they just won't migrate to Power BI, which is not great. Let me show example of how the workspace might look in a company which doesn't have proper Power BI governance. So let's see if my demo works. Looks like this. I'll be showing Hogwarts themed workspaces. I believe most of you should be familiar with Harry Potter, so I chose this topic. And what I'm showing is unfortunately really not that unusual. You have all the typical issues visible here with the suffixes as v2 final, with the legacy reports, which are still here, but they are just renamed. You have the misclicks and misnames in the name of the reports, and yeah, something fails. Some reports fail refreshing, and if you come here, you don't know what to look at, right? Because it's just a big mess of reports, and who knows if you should click at v2 or at final version of the report, right? So if I am honest, unfortunately, there is no magical spell from the Harry Potter world that would magically fix the governance in your organization. Just as Harry Potter can't spell himself out of this mess, we can't do it either. But we have to implement the governance step by step, one small step after another. And after we do enough of these steps, we arrive at functioning governance that eliminates most of this mess, hopefully all of it. So in the next demos, which I will show you, we will see how it should look like in ideal organization. Obviously, ideal is not always obtainable, but we'll try to do it. So this is, if you have anything like this in your organization, this is a huge no-no, and you should really try to improve it. One last thing, always manage the accesses especially to workspace, because if you add unnecessary people, with higher privileges, contributor and up, then the thing like RLS and so on is not working properly, and basically anyone can see any data and every data. So again, that's not really what we want. So the first message from me, really restrict who can access the workspace, give the privileges correctly, and always keep to the law of the least privilege needed for any given person. And also, yeah, try to keep some naming convention, try to keep only up-to-date reports in the workspace, and also try to separate semantic models and reports in the workspaces. Right, so I've already talked about why Power BI governance is difficult in the beginning, and one of the issues is that we have sold Power BI to the business users as this magical tool that anyone can use. It's very easy to use, right? And anyone can build his or hers own report. No need to bother IT, and everyone is happy, right? Well, the issue is that if we give a tool to the business users, it could go very well. But unfortunately, as people are experimenters by nature, and also people are, well, messy by nature, they will try a lot of different things. They will try publishing reports that are not working, that are in testing phase, that are just in development, and that's okay, but unfortunately, no one is deleting those reports after they are being published, right? So if there's no oversight from IT or from management, people are just using Power BI as a sandbox, and that's okay till the sandbox becomes too messy and too full of different unfinished projects. The issue is that if we restrict the business users, the business developers, then they complain that the speed is lacking, right? Because I can build my Power BI report in 2 days, and IT or BI team will handle it in 2 weeks because they have to go through all the processes. So why should I delegate it to IT when I can build it myself much quicker? Well, the issue is then if everyone does what he thinks is right, in the end, nothing works. And what might be also the important message for you, there's no universal answer for the Power BI governance. I will talk about 3 main models, and just me talking about 3 different models mean there's lots of options where or how you can approach the Power BI governance and how you can approach Power BI service in your company. So what's important is that context always determines the right Power BI governance model in your organization. So what are the costs and what are maybe the hidden costs of wrongly set up Power BI governance or no governance at all? I already mentioned some of these. I've shown it in a demo. Duplicate reports, no naming conventions, and all of that results in no trust in data. If there is no trust in data, we can't do good decisions, and no one will use Power BI if they don't trust it. Security incidents happen, and unfortunately, a lot of times no one knows it, no one sees it. When we give access to people in the workspace who shouldn't have the access, or maybe we let the people share the finished reports with whoever in the organization, maybe we let people publish to the web, share data with external users. All of this can happen just because our setup is not set up correctly, and if no one is checking for it, we don't know how many data leaks are actually happening. And obviously the unused reports are cluttering the tenant. And I think that's an issue in almost all organizations. Basically, if we have any rules if we have any rules in Power BI, it's mostly about development. Very seldom we have rules about deleting old and unused Power BI reports, unfortunately. Again, the opposite extreme, if we restrict the people too much, if we say to them, hey, you need to wait 1 week for approval, if, for example, they try Power BI, share it to colleague doesn't have access, even though he should have, then waits another week for access, then obviously people won't use Power BI, they will just stick to Excel and sharing it via SharePoint, via email, attachments, and so on. So again, we didn't build any trust just by setting up the access incorrectly. The slowness of this whole process was mentioned multiple times, and the result is if people feel too constricted, if people feel there is no benefit, it's only rules, and in the end it still doesn't work, then no one will drive the implementation of Power BI in the organization, and Power BI will die because management will see that it costs a lot of money, but people don't use it and complain. So that's basically why Power BI implementation can and will fail unless we really make sure that both the business and IT is happy from their point of view. So let's look at the 3 basic governance models, and these are not 3 discrete models. This is more like a spectrum starting from the IT-centric one and ending with the full self-service one. And very rarely you will see data governance that's purely IT-centric or purely self-service. Most of the times, the data governance is mixing some parts of IT-centric and some parts of self-service. I will go over details in the next slides, and I will give my recommendation on which parts of IT-centric you should keep and which parts of self-service you should keep in most cases. Just really high level, if we have IT-centric, basically IT handles, or IT or BI team handles all requests and manages the whole Power BI ecosystem. If it's self-service, then IT just provides the Power BI service, maybe handles the gateway, but the whole reporting is delegated to business users. And the federated one is some kind of mixture of both. And yeah, it's up to you, up to your organization to choose correctly from both of these buckets what you need for your ideal Power BI governance. So let's start with the most strict one, with the IT-centric model. As I said, here IT or BI team owns everything. Semantic models, reports, workspaces, sharing of it, security, part of view, looking at the usage metrics, everything is handled by professionals, let's say. Business users only consume the reports, they define requirements, they define the acceptation criteria, the approval criteria, but they do not develop anything themselves. They just define and then wait for the result and then consume the result. All of the development should ideally go through some version control, change management. It should have documentation. It should be documented in, for example, Jira, and everything is very professional, very robust, and is slightly similar to typical software engineering development. This model where we delegate everything to the professionals, to the BI IT teams, then that works if you are very when you are very cautious and you don't want your data to be leaked anywhere, even across departments, for example. So for example, if you work with personal data, with HR data, with financial data, healthcare data, and so on, then you really want to be focused on the data security, right? You don't want to have any leakage. So you delegate all the security stuff to the IT, who should be experienced enough to set it up properly. Another reason for this model might be that you as an organization are really just now starting with Power BI, and you have basically no experienced business users with this kind of tool or with this kind of process, meaning BI. So if really only the IT or BI teams are experienced with Power BI, then it makes sense to delegate everything to them. What I would also recommend, if this is your case, where the business users are not that experienced, they have lower data literacy, choose some of them, some people who have some drive and want to get better, and try to teach them how to be more data literate, how to work with Power BI, how to work with data, make them your data stewards, and in time delegate some of the responsibilities to them, because you really don't want to have everything handled by IT and BI. You want to have at least some proponents of BI in businesses themselves. But yeah, these are the two main cases: highly regulated industries or data literacy being low in your organization. The full self-service model is on the opposite side of the spectrum. Anyone can build anything, meaning anyone can create his or her own workspace, report, semantic model, business handles RLS, sharing, and everything else. Unfortunately, business typically only cares about the publication of the report and not really much else. So these things like security and redundancy are often being overlooked. This typically comes hand in hand with very little central oversight or approval, because IT just provides the sandbox and business users just do whatever they want. No one really regularly checks on what is happening, and then we get the data security issues. IT provides just the tools and training, but they do not provide any formal recommendations or approvals. This fits if you are a small organization, typically startup, or if you are an organization where the data literacy of typical employee is very high, when you can trust the employees that they won't misuse Power BI, that they know what they are doing, and they know that the data is private and they can't just share it with anybody. So if there is existing culture of data ownership and accountability, maybe you already work with Power BI for a long time, then it's okay. You can delegate almost everything to the business users, and it should work. But again, these cases are very few, and you should be 100% sure that the employees, the business users, know what they're doing and that they are really experienced with Power BI. So usually what it comes to is some kind of mixture between the IT-centric and the self-service one. And the mixture is this federated model, the realistic middle ground. I've prepared 4 layers, which I see as key for this model to work and which you should mainly take care of. So from my opinion and from my experience, everything starts with the data. And I personally would always recommend that IT or BI team or data team handles everything data related, meaning where's the data taken from, how it is transformed into semantic model, how often is the data refresh, the certification of the semantic model, and so on. Because when the data is wrong or inconsistent, well, no one can trust it, and our whole reporting doesn't really make sense and is not useful. So data is everything for me, and I want my data to be handled by the most experienced and knowledgeable people, which is typically IT and data team. Then we need to differentiate between enterprise reports and self-service reports. The enterprise ones, in this case, mean either complex reports with more complex logic, and maybe for top management, maybe the report is viewable by hundreds, thousands of people, so it has big impact across the organization. And in this case, I again want the report to be built by BI or IT team, because this report is very visible. So I need my best experienced people on the report to be sure that our organization is happy with the results. On the other hand, if the report is just something for myself or maybe for my department, the impact is not that high. I don't care if it's being built by business. I just want business to use the certified semantic model, so I know that the data is correct, and hopefully the business user didn't mess up too much the logic. Well, they shouldn't, right? They are just creating visuals and using predefined measures, so it should be okay. The point is, there's not report like report. There's always some categorization of the reports, and the more important ones should still probably be delegated to IT or BI team. Only the, let's say, local reports I want to be built by self-service BI, self-service business users. And my workspace, that's something that is, I think, used not to its full potential. Just say to the users, if you want to experiment, if you want to avoid data governance, if you just want to try out Power BI, then for your own reports, maybe share with 1 or 2 people. You can use my workspace, put anything you want there, but do not share it freely across the organization. It's really just for experimentation. And these 4 layers, I think, should be the basis of each data governance in, let's say, a normal organization. The key thing being that self-service doesn't mean that business does it everything themselves, but they should really only build the visual report on top of already vetted out data and on top of data that we are sure is correct because IT handled it. So let's take a look at how to set it all up and maybe some other tips and tricks that we need to take care of when we prepare and when we handle the governance. So let's switch to another demo. And in this demo, I want to show some, from my perspective, important settings for the whole Power BI tenant. So if I switch in my Power BI service into the settings and into the admin portal, because I have the privilege, I can see the whole tenant settings for the whole Microsoft Fabric and Power BI service. If you are not that high in the structure of the organization, if there is another person handling it, but you still feel that the data governance in your organization is not up to par, that maybe there is something to be improved, then don't be afraid. Just write an email or have a meeting with the people who are responsible for setting of these settings, and yeah, just say that you have heard a great session that inspired you to improve the governance in your company, and just provide them the feedback and discuss with them what could be improved. From my point of view, and there's lots of settings. If you have never seen tenant settings, then there's like hundreds of options. The most important ones from my perspective are regarding workspace, and concretely workspace creation. What I'm showing here is in our small companies, so it might not align with what I'm saying for, let's say, building a new Power BI governance. I would definitely recommend keeping the create workspaces enabled, but delegate creation of workspaces to only specific security groups. And security group being a group of people, typically from PI team or maybe key business users who are trusted enough to create only workspaces when they are needed and when it makes sense for the workspace to be created. So first of all, make sure that workspaces cannot be created by anyone, because then it really creates a mess, and Power BI admin has a lot of workspaces to delete once a while. All right, so this is the workspace creation. The next couple of settings are regarding or are key to prevent the data leakage. So for me, publish to web should be disabled. There are very few cases when you want to publish your Power BI reports directly to web without any security measures. It can be done for some marketing purposes, for some demo purposes, but again, this should be generally disabled unless you really want to show your existing solution to the whole web. And if yes, again, use specific security groups. Only selected few people who can really use this option. Do not leave it open to anyone. Related to this is external data sharing. Again, you don't want your users to be able to share data outside of the organization without any oversight from the admins or from IT. So generally disable it. Again, if you need to share the data outside of your tenant for some reason, make sure only specific security groups can do it. I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but for me, this is really the key thing regarding data sharing outside of the organization. Make sure that only the select few people can do it and not the general populace. I think that even the better way than just external data sharing is to invite the external people into your tenant and have them as guests in your tenant, give them access to the reports and semantic models they need, but do not share the data outside of your own tenant. So for certifications, I will be talking about certification later, but certification means that you can give semantic models or reports like a sign that someone made sure this works and recommends it to be built upon for others. So again, certifications definitely enabled, but as always, make sure only selected people can do the certification. Again, be it data team, be it key people from the business groups, be it IT. Just keep it among few people who know what they're doing, so that any business user can't just say, yeah, I created great report, I can certify it. For sure not. Make sure that only responsible people can give certifications. And sensitivity labels, we have not set up sensitivity labels in our organization, but I would recommend, if you have a bigger organization and you are conscious about your data. You really want to make sure that your data is visible only to the people who should see it. Go through all of these settings and set up sensitivity labels so that people know what is on internal, what can be shared externally, and so on. And this is I think everything I wanted to say regarding the admin portal. We have the 5 key settings here: who can create workspaces, if we can publish data to the web or to the external tenant, and then who can give certifications and who can set up sensitivity labels, or how are sensitivity labels set up. These are the 5 things that I think are really good basis for Power BI governance, and then you can go through all of these other settings after setting up these 5 key things. All right. The next point is that, and I think this is getting better and better in organizations, you can actually build multiple reports on top of one semantic model. I feel like this is still not, let's say, mainstream. Still see a lot of organizations doing the classical, let's build new semantic model for this report, and then we get a lot of data duplications, we get overlapping refreshes, and databases being too used up by Power BI Gateway. So do not be afraid to build semantic model for each department, for each project. Again, how you set up the semantic models logic is up to you, but there should be one semantic model covering at least some area, let's say controlling, accounting, logistics, and so on. And on top of that one semantic model, build those visualization, build those reports. Really leverage one semantic model and multiple reports as much as you can. And as I said, I would really recommend for you to delegate semantic model creation to IT or BI team and keep businesses just to the visualization part of the Power BI service. One small tip I have is to keep all semantic models in one workspace. That's really only strictly for semantic models. And the only person who has access to the workspace is a Power BI admin. Even the developers, BI team, business users, whoever, they get only shared their concrete semantic model with build permission, but they do not have access to the workspace. So RLS can work even after working on the semantic model, so that no one can delete the semantic model, so that any adjustment of the semantic model is done with Power BI admin approval and goes through the process that is set up in your organization. So this is a small tip for me. And yeah, for sure, use the lineage view in Power BI service so you can see which reports depend on which semantic models, and then which semantic models are sourced from which database, and so on. This diagram is more for, let's say, when you will be reviewing this presentation. This should guide you which basis of the Power BI governance is good for you. Again, if you are in highly sensitive or regulated area, industry, go for IT-centric. If you are a small organization, maybe you are just one department trying out Power BI before expanding to the whole organization, you can try self-service, you can just experiment, and then you can somehow catch up on the governance. And if you are something in between, then it's about experience. If you are experienced, if you have experienced people, do not be afraid to use the federated model, delegate at least something to the business users. If you feel like the experience is somehow lacking in your company, then start with IT-centric ones, educate the key users, educate the data stewards, and in 3, 6, 12 months, delegate some of the work, some of the governance to the key business users. So from my experience, again, I reiterate this point once again, but I think it's the most important one. Everything starts and ends with correct data. So always make sure the data layer, the semantic models work, that there are not duplicate data, there are no like missing data, corrupted data. Make sure that the data model is as good as possible. Check data quality often, and if data will be correct, business will be happy and they will be using Power BI. But the data needs to be correct, so really have your best people on it. As I said, find your data stewards. If you do not have currently any data stewards in your organization, in your department, then try to find someone who is passionate about data, who likes their job or wants to learn something new, and try to educate these people and make them your friends in the business part of organization. And they should be the one driving Power BI adoption and also the adherence to data governance in their own departments or business units. So really, it's not about IT, just setting up the governance and enforcing it, but you should always try to find some key person, even on the business side of the organization, that will help you with Power BI adoption and with data governance adherence. And try to make the governed path as easy to use for users as possible. Because if the users have naming conventions set up, if the users know which semantic models they should be using, then it's easy for them, right? They just connect to certified semantic model, they build up on top of them some visuals, they easily name the report because they have the naming conventions defined, and they are happy. So even if we restrict them a little bit, if the governance is done correctly and smoothly, then business will be happy. What doesn't work, if we set up the governance, we try it out, and then we stop enforcing it, or if we just write it out and never start enforcing it, then obviously it won't work. The biggest issue, I think, is these one-time exceptions. Like businesses, I really need to see the report tomorrow, and it's a life and death situation, right? So just this one time, can we skip the correct process and just do it my way so I can see the results? This is the start of Power BI governance going to hell, because if people get used to the exceptions, then obviously they will do exceptions all the time, and the exceptions won't be exceptions anymore, and the whole governance is again irrelevant and useless. So try to limit exceptions to really, really one-time exceptions, and do not make it a habit. Do not be afraid to say people, no, you have to follow the process. Otherwise, it won't work. And as I said already, it's not only IT initiative. Business must participate and must be willing to participate. So this is the role for the data stewards to help you from the business point of view. All right, let's switch to last demo, and then let's go through the ending slides of this session. So how could it look like in the HackWords workspace? Let me find the correct one. And what happened magically while I was talking, then some new workspaces were created. In these workspace core data, we have two semantic models. They are certified. If I hover over the semantic model, then you can see that it has some description. So if I look at it, I know what it contains, which data is contained, which data it contains, and we also see there is some access restriction applied on the semantic model. So that's nice. If I check the access, only me as an admin have access, so no other person are checking my semantic models directly. No one can interfere with it. And also, if I check the security on, let's say this one, there is some row level security already being applied if I want to test it out. And yeah, the visual side of this project is not really amazing, but I think it gets the point across. So I have the official HackWords records. I see the students, how many points they have in each of their lessons. And I can see that if I'm looking at the data as the Gryffindor head, I see only my students. I don't see students from other teams. If I check as a Slytherin head, then again, I can see only my students, and I can see they excel in potions. So I'm doing pretty good job as Severus Snape teaching my subject, or at least I mark my students favorably. And if I'm headmaster, if I'm headmaster, I see everything. So this quick check that the RLS is working and that I have delegated correct people to correct roles makes me quite calm and quite sure that if users will be building a report on top of this semantic model, then only responsible people will see their own data, and there won't be any data leakage, which is obviously what I want to see. So this was the workspace for semantic models. And if I take a look at the workspaces for Gryffindor, I see some reports which are here, no semantic models on the reports. If I see the lineage view, then I can see that all 3 reports are sourced from the official certified semantic model. So again, I can trust what I see in these reports. And the same would be visible in the Slytherin workspace, where there's only one report, again, sourced directly from our semantic model workspace. Right, so that was for the demo. We have seen in 40 minutes magically going from, okay, this is not the mess, this is the mess. We have seen going from here, which is kind of hard to orient myself into creating 3 different workspaces, which are working, semantic models are split from reports, and RLS is working, and so on. So this is the goal. This is the goal we want to achieve. All right, so where to start? It's Friday, so you won't be probably starting today. But let's say there's Monday, you want to come to your office and say, hey, we need to improve our BI governance. So where to start? I would recommend starting auditing your tenants. See which Power BI reports are being built, which are being used, what are the common semantic models, who are the key users, who view the reports the most, and obviously try to find any potential data leakage, if there's anything shared externally, if there are people in workspaces who shouldn't be, and so on. Try to fix the critical tenant settings that I've shown you, either yourself or try to have a discussion with a person who can fix them, and really analyze which data are most commonly used. Try to build semantic models on top of these data. Then try to create some naming conventions, how workspaces should be named, how they should be created, how reports and semantic models should be named, and enforce it. Again, keep the created reports, just rename them when the time is right. This is the key thing for me. Prepare and certify your core semantic models. So again, this is kind of a parallel job. You don't want to delete everything old. You just want to rebuild it again in a better way. And when you have tested it out and it works, just, delete the old and switch to the new model, and everything works much more smoother. And in time, everyone will be happy. And again, identify the data stewards, potential data stewards in key business units. Either ask managers who could it be, or just look at the usage metrics, and maybe those people who are already familiar with Power BI from the consumer point of view would also like to be data stewards, hyping up Power BI in their business units. So I would definitely start step by step. Do not try to do everything at once, just one step after another. Semantic models, then workspace creation, then naming conventions, then whatever else. Order up to you, but do it step by step. Do not overwhelm people with robust governance from day one, because if you have nothing and you come on a Monday, hey, we need to do these 20 rules, then no one will be happy. Implement gradually. Don't forget about role-level security on sensitive data sets, and also do not forget to define processes, how the certification works, how the RLS works, how workspace creation works, and so on. Make it visible so people can use it and can orient themselves. If we have rules set up, if we have processes set up, and they are easy to follow, people will be happy to follow them. And yeah, first, see what's already built, try to fix it, and only then try to build new things. Right, so we're nearing the end. What are the key things that I would like you to take away from this session? It's not a bad thing to be more IT-centric from the beginning. If you are lacking the experience, do not be afraid to use your IT team, your BI team to handle most of the stuff, how to design the governance, how to enforce it, have the BI teams teach the users how to use Power BI service correctly, how to develop reports properly. Really, do not be afraid to use your experts, but also try to delegate it to the business in the future. Again, make sure the data layer works, all the data is correct. If data is correct, everyone will be happy, and Power BI will be used. And start small. If you have no governance, if you feel like the technical debt is very high, then do not be afraid. Start somewhere, slowly, gradually. And if you look 1 year from now, where you are now, and where you will be 1 year from now, you will see a big difference. Just go step by step. Do not try to do everything at once. And yeah, that's it. That's it from my side. Thank you for attending this session. Hopefully you have learned something new. Thanks to the organizers for giving me an opportunity to speak here. And thanks to my mentor, Abe, for giving me very good pointers how to improve this presentation. And yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all of you. If you have liked my session, if you want to keep in touch, if you want to ask me any questions regarding Power BI or governance, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I will be happy to chat with you whenever in the future. And that's all. Any questions?